I've got some nerdy stuff we can talk about.
Like the Switch 2 announcement?
The Switch 2. We could talk about Gemini, although this is more of just a conversation that doesn't even need to make the podcast. But apparently Gemini 2.5 Pro is amazing for coding. Like the benchmark was Claude 3.7 Sonnet, but Gemini seems to be fantastic. And it's right now free.
Yeah, and it's free. Huh.
Yeah. So I think there's something to be learned about that.
These models just keep leapfrogging each other, though.
They are, and
which is
I would say
cool.
most people are using 3.7 Sonnet for doing code.
Someone made a flight simulator in this?
Yeah,
So
he just basically gave it a prompt and said, I want you to do this.
This AI stuff, man. Just being able to just be like, hey, make this game.
And the funny part is the way the person said is like, I think if you think about how amazing that Claude was really close, like you would have a little bit of bug fixes, but how close it came to just says, I want you to make me a small flight simulator in JavaScript. And both of them effectively did it, but Claude 3.7 had a couple of bugs. The ship was sideways.
Yeah, the plane's flying sideways in the video I'm watching.
And the person and the author said that, hey, the key interaction seemed like there seems to be some weirdness there.
But it did a lot of the foundational work. That's kind of the key in my mind.
Yeah, that person just put in a prompt and got source code.
There's also a Rubik's Cube solver, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, which Claude failed at. But again, like that was the thing. It was like, it gets close. You would have bug reports, but that's fine. But it's the fact that Gemini 2.5 Pro, basically, because the author calls it one-shotting it. It works.
Yeah.
No issues. The variance in color seems to really mess with the LLMs for some reason. But yeah.
I'm expecting a cool revolution, I guess, in these kind of industries like gaming and whatnot. But also it might just be a flood of absolute garbage. So it could go either way.
Could be, but I'm not convinced that we're not already enjoying the absolute garbage.
True. Roblox is going to come up later in this discussion.
It's not my thing either, but it's fine. The Minecraft movie did about $150 million its opening weekend.
I've heard people say they liked it quite a bit, and
You know what I heard?
So.
People who like movies say it's probably the worst thing ever. But I get it. Nostalgia is valuable, and the kids that grew up on Minecraft, largely, there's value there. Like that's nostalgia for them.
Yeah, I get 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the Google reviews is 84%. So
there's a lot of fan service.
Yeah.
Well, hello there. Didn't even see you walk in. I guess that means we should probably turn the lights down low, turn the mics up high, and welcome you to the Lighthouse IT Solutions podcast. I'm sitting here having a great old time with my friend Griffin. Hi, Griffin.
Hello.
I'm Matt, and you know what? We're gonna change things up. We're gonna play some smooth jazz later on in the show. I think we'll just go full radio show. What do you think? Listen. I like people kind of being off their toes a little bit. You know, why do everything exactly the same all the time?
Structure's easy.
We prefer chaos. Well, look, I got some fun stuff I want to talk about. I got
some celebratory items.
Celebratory?
Switch 2 came out.
It did?
Microsoft's 50-year anniversary.
50 years.
Did you look at the Gates, what was it called? Gates Notes? His little blog?
No.
Pretty cool looking. It not only allows you to download a scanned version of the source code for Microsoft's original source code, but also has a really fun, interactive, story, I guess, on how everything happened.
Really?
So, pretty cool. And most people who are at least maybe using Edge probably saw the 50th year anniversary, pop-up that you saw with, the cool timeline and stuff. But I think this link was linked in it. I think that's how I found it. And I think the blog is even cooler, honestly. But
well, now I need to read this because I saw the article that talked about the celebration of it, and let's be real, there's a million different directions I think that people can have with Microsoft. They've been a giant for 40-something years. You know, it's a 50-year-old company. They operated as a ruthless business, and they made some pretty impressive things, but they've effectively perpetuated the growth of the computer. So you might be stuck with the Apple approach in which the hardware and the software were married together. That actually happened a lot. Atari, same way. So that model might have been it. Costs would have probably never come down. Compatibility would have never been. I don't know that the revolution would have happened as quickly if it weren't for companies like Microsoft that just said, listen, we're gonna write software for computers and we're make it, driver infrastructure. And I think there's something to be said. Not saying that if they didn't do it,
maybe somebody else would,
wouldn't.
but yeah.
But they're the ones that did it.
Mm-hmm.
They get the credit for doing a lot of that. You think about, gosh, I just remember there was just so much hype around the Windows 95 release. It was kind of neat because at that point there was a company called Acer that was making computers. They had the Aspire series, and the computers weren't white or yellowy beige. They came in colors.
ACER?
Yeah,
they're still around.
Yeah, they're mostly Chinese now. They're not as common.
Yeah.
But they made these Aspire. They were really cool computers, and they were colors.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Somebody was making a computer that was cool to look at.
You don't like the wood finish on some of the older models?
Yeah, actually, I kind of do.
Pretty
I
cool.
really would like to see that. I mean, there's a couple companies that do that, but
they do that.
I'd like to see that back. They're not all winners. I'm looking at you, Millennium Edition. I'm looking at you, Vista. Though I didn't really have a strong hate on Vista. I'd have to argue that if I was going to hate on anything, it would be Windows 8.
Yeah. They quickly rectified a lot of issues with 8.1.
And even then, not great.
Yeah.
It was...
That was one of the reasons people were still on 7 when 10 came out.
Yep.
Crazy.
But the big thing was Microsoft thought with Windows 8, everything was going to go to touch.
Yeah, which was, I don't think they were wrong. It's just
But the manufacturers never followed suit. It was too expensive to implement.
I think they were too ahead of their time at that point.
Yeah.
Because now almost every laptop and whatnot's touchscreen. Would have been okay at that point, but
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, Xbox.
Huge. Yeah.
That was kind of a funny one because I remember making fun of the original Xbox. It's just a computer they're losing money on.
It's funny now with Xbox removing the exclusivity rules that they had in place with some games and all that stuff, and now everything is on live technically.
Mm-hmm.
The Xbox is back to basically just being a mediocre computer.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
But literally, the OG Xbox ran a Pentium 3 processor.
Yeah,
it was
like
5 inches tall. It cost Microsoft $800 to make, and they sold it for $400.
Crazy, man.
And everybody was like, what is wrong with you? They just wanted to get their foot in the door. And so Nintendo made all of their money off of licensing. They didn't really make it off of hardware. They basically sold the hardware break even in the beginning, but made their money by saying, if you want to make software on here, you need to license our technology. That's why they always had that little well, they didn't always, but most games had that little silver seal or gold seal. It said licensed Nintendo. It means that and I don't know if you remember the difference. Some of the cartridges were slightly different because they technically weren't licensed. Somebody just was making a cartridge about the same size as a Nintendo cartridge.
I remember those on Game Boy games, cartridges.
They existed there too. Yeah. But for the most part, you had to pay Nintendo if you wanted to develop on their systems.
Man.
So I guess my question for you, 50 years of Microsoft, that's I mean, realistically, that's you and I's entire lives. What do you think of when you think of Microsoft?
Besides Windows, and I don't know if the common person really understands that Xbox is a part of Microsoft, probably the Office suite would be the one that I would think of first, which had, again, changed a lot.
Wrecked Lotus.
Yeah.
Does anybody know Lotus? Are you out
Lotus
there?
Mail was the introduction to me.
Lotus 123 was Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, I think the Office suite is probably the biggest in my mind because I mean it made software accessible and so many tasks just easy because your company was paying
everybody
for it.
just thinks that that's a way to squeeze, we sell computers. Everybody used to think that was just a tax that you had to pay, oh, you need to upgrade Office too. I'm like, so these are the same people where you're paying $5,000 a year for your business software.
Yeah.
And I bet you're using Outlook way more than you are your ERP system.
Yeah.
And you're using your ERP system a lot.
Yeah.
These programs are ultimately your lifeblood, and they allow you to communicate with everybody in the world.
Yeah.
Word, Excel, all of that, So always made me laugh.
I guess, what do you think of?
Honestly, I have several sort of things that I think just hit the ground kind of. There are moments where they do some things that are really cool, or they buy somebody really cool and they really push them after you. And unlike Google, they don't give up. They don't just drop the product. They give it a Viking funeral.
Well, they just kind of did with that with Skype, but
okay, but they bought Skype like 20 years ago, and they've
Teams
really
have
been downplaying Skype for 10.
yeah.
And Teams has gotten good within the last 5 or 6. Like,
Interestingly, Googling Microsoft, like just Microsoft, the SEO meta description of Microsoft's website is "Get Microsoft Teams." So yeah, that tells you how much they're pushing Teams.
I think some of the collaboration things that they've done really well. To me, though, the thing that I will give Microsoft the most credit for is servers.
Oh.
They genuinely made servers more accessible for businesses, but the reliability, things like that. But it made it so that it had a lower. This is why there's also a lot of bad IT, guys. I understand that. But because it felt so much like Windows, it made administering servers far less intimidating, which I think helps small businesses.
Yeah.
Because now you could have your own server. And you could run something reliable versus, an AS400 from IBM or a Linux box or Unix boxes and those have come a long way. But back then, in 94, 95, when they're releasing these server versions of Windows, they were impossible and they were picky and they were tough to use. And
I mean, like the Office apps, this is an accessibility kind of situation. They've made it so easy for people to really, and Microsoft really has been good to small businesses in terms of that kind of thing, which is nice. They also are huge enterprise-wise, so.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
They're just all over.
So I guess that's probably my big thing is just they've always been on the proponent of, honestly, we think technology's cool. And I'd say I admire how much philanthropy the company does. They've always had a mantra of giving back and supporting the world.
Yeah, I mean, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation basically removed malaria from the equation.
Yeah,
like
how crazy is that?
Yeah.
And what do they care? They probably aren't worried about mosquitoes in Washington, in Seattle. What do they care? And it's one of the wealthiest nonprofits, but you can't just sit there and say that they aren't doing anything. Admittedly, everybody thought he was the Bill Gates was a bit of a crackpot because about 4 or 5 years before COVID-19 hit, he was running around saying,
the next pandemic
there
is
a pandemic. We are overdue for a pandemic.
It's funny to see those. But
and everybody's like, whatever, dude, we're going to be fine. And he's like, no, we're not.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
And it turns out he was right.
Pretty much.
So,
and he could jump over an office chair. I don't know how many people are going to get that reference.
The whole reason the Zune exists is because one of his kids asked for an iPod.
Amazing, man. He's like, no.
But I love that he's like, his kids asked for an iPod. You could have a Zune. Well, that's a Zune. Here.
Amazing.
Sorry, kid. That kid probably still had an iPod. They just weren't allowed to take it in public. And actually something else about them that I really respect is that their trusts for his kids, because they understand, both him and Melinda. I know they're no longer together, but because of their understanding of how important, anybody can be rich kind of thing, their trust pays out more based on what type of service to society their lives are.
Oh, wow.
So they could be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever.
I don't know anything about his kids.
I don't really either. I just know that I was reading a conversation about it, and it says, listen, the world needs more people to educate and build up the next generation. And so, if you are a police officer, if you're a firefighter, if you're a teacher, the trust will actually pay you out more than if you become a doctor, lawyer, or millionaire business owner.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, that's good. Like,
you know what? You're going to be taken care of either way, but if you take a job that makes a difference in the world, you're going to get paid more. And that's not fair to people who, are changing the world. But what a great focus on, like, be better. You're coming from a rich family, but you should probably still have a good work ethic.
Yeah.
So love them or hate them, Microsoft has been an important part of the last 50 years of technological growth.
Yeah.
Even AI has become more accessible because of Copilot. Sorry,
yeah.
But it is.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on Nintendo, though?
I've got a lot, but I've already said them 15 times over in lots of different places.
Okay.
So why don't we lead off with you, because I'm a negative Nelly on this one.
Okay. So Switch 2 got announced. It's coming out June.
They're not taking
5th.
Pre-orders because of tariffs.
Yeah.
They're not sure what that's going to look like.
See the Apple thing? Apple sent, this is apparently their slow time, so they sent 3 planes of iPhones over in preparation so that they can have a buffer.
Well, I had heard that. I had also read that some of the stores were flooded when the tariffs got announced.
Yeah, people trying to buy equipment.
Because they think it's going to be expensive.
Yeah. Well,
probably
will. Yeah. So, anyway, Switch 2.
We digress.
So, Switch 2 got announced. It will be out June 5th for $450, which is actually, I think, rather low. I think that's a fine price for the next console from them. My issues is that their hardware improvements don't really reflect that price. But a console from Nintendo that's brand new for $450, I'm not really upset by it. Just I feel like that there should be more.
The price of
going
a console is expensive right now,
and Nintendo's always been a little lower than everybody else, so $450 kind of matches. Funny enough, though, the Japan model is $334. Yeah, so that's funny. But anyway, so there's slight improvements. It is basically like Wii to Wii U. Like, there is simply some additional features, there's additional functions, there's a little bit more powerful stuff. I'm livid that the initial model won't be OLED. It is still... I didn't catch that. Yeah.
I assumed it would be OLED.
It is not, which is dumb to me, but whatever. Especially knowing that OLED is more power efficient. Like,
yeah.
Kind of
better quality.
Make it a $500 thing. Add $50 to make that happen in my mind.
Because we all know it's going to cost them $7 to add it.
And maybe this is a scheme of getting the first people to buy both, because the OLED model probably will come out.
Because they did that nonsense. Didn't they do that with the Switch?
They did that with the Switch.
There's an OLED now?
Yep. But there are some
So why
cool
would they
things.
go backwards?
Dude, I don't know. Yeah. There's some things that don't make sense. In my mind, Nintendo is doing a lot of changes because we don't need more hardware improvements for the games that we're putting out, basically, I think is what their thought process is. So why increase the price?
For the games that people play on Nintendos.
On Nintendo, yeah.
The vast majority of games that people buy on a Nintendo are made by Nintendo.
Yeah, aren't going to be on another platform. So, but that's why people are buying these things, for Zelda, for, Metroid. But there are some really pretty interesting features that could be awesome. One of the ones, the highlight for me is this mouse cursor that's on each Joy-Con. So there's an optical thing, and you flip it on its side, and you put your finger on like the little trigger, and it's like a little mouse. Probably extremely bad ergonomically, but for like my friend's wife is huge into point and click games, like the old Nancy Drew games and stuff. That's a whole industry that now will become prevalent on Nintendo's marketplace because of the ability to have a cursor. Civilization will be easier, the new one, to play on this instead of a joystick.
Yeah, but they're still touchscreen.
Yeah, but not on the big screen. Like, what do you call it? The dock.
That's
whatever
fair.
that is.
That's fair.
Which the dock also has quite a few improvements because now it's 4K. Which, if that wasn't the case, that would have absolutely been a no-go for me.
A complete waste.
Yeah. But now there's like a fan and stuff in it as well, so it doesn't overheat, which was a huge issue, especially when the battery was low. It would charge up, create a lot of heat while you're playing a game, also create a lot of heat. And that would slow down the processor for throttling. So, yeah.
I think the little the OLED Switch version, they fixed how that worked.
There were some differences in that for sure. But I don't think I've seen actual tech specs of its chip or RAM or...
And you won't.
Yeah, but it is a 256 storage internally instead of the I think it was 32 on the
I
original.
think it's 32.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Yeah, but 256 reasonable at this time, especially since Switch games are smaller in size generally. But this is kind of weird because people are expecting a lot more. So a lot of people are disappointed.
Well, and the Joy-Cons are magnetic instead of lock in place.
There's definitely improvements, but I think this is just an improvement on the original system. This is not a new system in my mind.
You can play GameCube if you're subscribed to Nintendo Online.
Yep, there are some backwards compatibility stuff, which is cool. But you do have, like, for example, if you want to play Tears of the Kingdom, the Zelda one that came out, and you want to play that on the new Switch, you buy an upgrade pack for it.
Oh, so they have to patch something.
Yeah.
So DLC now.
So you own the game, but you got to buy the game, but
to run it on the new system.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the only thing in terms of how the games work that is kind of not great. They're expensive.
Oh yeah. They are $80 now, which is pretty high. Yeah. It's kind of wild because people are like, well, you know, it's been $60 for so long and all that stuff. But the fact is, there are so many games right now. And so, if you could look at Steam, for example, the marketplace there, average game on Steam is going to be like $20, $25. And those are really nice games usually. There's still AAA titles that are, you know, 60 coming out. Rarely do you see an 80 though. And now Nintendo's releasing basically every game at 80. So is the justification because people are willing to pay that, or is the justification because they're not spending as much on the console? They're losing money on the console and they want to make it up there, or is this just them setting a new default? I don't know.
I'm glad you went first because you definitely were very, very fair to everything.
I mean, I haven't had my hands on it, so I don't know.
I'm the type of guy that if the price is right, I impulse. I love gadgets. I love toys.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have a Switch 2. I know I say that now. I've said certain things before, but when the price of a PlayStation 5 went to basically the price of a computer, you and I both, we geek out.
Get a computer, man. Just buy a computer.
Show me a Steam Deck.
Yeah, Steam Deck's about this price too, man.
The Steam Deck is upgradable. It's user repairable. It's a computer. You can run whatever you pretty much want.
Yeah.
It's such a, and it is slightly more expensive, but not by much, and you're not locked into anything.
Well, the base model, the LCD screen, like the Switch is going to come out with, is $399. So
it isn't 4K though in any way, shape, or form.
True.
Which again isn't when it's portable, but the Steam Deck in no way is ever, you know, because you can buy a dock and attach it to a TV and what have you. But
yeah.
The Steam Deck has so much more for you to do. Nintendo did all of this because they know what people will pay. They very clearly...
There's going to be a Zelda release after this, basically.
Yes.
They're timing this perfectly with the release of their
There's going to be a Mario.
games.
There's going to be a Zelda. Yeah. There's going to be... What else is there big ones like...
I mean, they released a big Donkey Kong game, apparently.
Very nice.
Mario Party probably is going to come out.
Mario Party would be
eventually.
a great one. I wonder if there's a Smash Brothers.
Yeah, Smash Brothers would be massive. That would get a lot of people to buy it.
Like, there is a cult following around the Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, I know people who are going to buy this when Zelda comes out.
This is going to be successful.
Yeah.
But this isn't... You mentioned that you thought $450 for a console in this day and age is not... Except you look at what you're getting from from Xbox and from PlayStation.
There's not a lot of improvements with this, so...
This is very minuscule. It's not like it's handheld 4K,
but it's
still 1080.
It has game chat, man.
The other ones have had that.
Oh yeah, forever. And I have Discord now, which half the people who are playing Xbox don't even use Xbox as party chat anymore. They use Discord still.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So here's what you got. You have a system that is priced higher than it should be worth. Because the original Switch was what, $300, $330?
Yeah, something like that.
$350 if you did a bundle. I think I bought a bundle that came with stuff. That was fun. $350. So I understand that was years ago. It's new hardware, but it's not new hardware because I bet you this is probably the chipset is probably 5 years old, 6 years old. They're not paying a lot to this is not bleeding edge stuff. When Xbox came out, the latest Xbox and the latest PlayStation came out, they created hardware that they were going to lose their tail on in the front end so that it would last 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't think Nintendo's doing that here.
No.
This is cell phone hardware.
Yeah. It is wild to think about how far away Switch and Switch 2 are from each other.
Yeah. That's fair.
Which is kind of bad. Like, so Switch 1 was 2017. We've gone so many years now.
Yeah.
Like, 8 years is a long time for the next console iteration, and for it to be this mediocre in my mind, it's just kind of
That's
sad.
my big thing. I don't mind that it's 10 years because Sony,
people
Microsoft,
just expected such bigger things.
They developed the processors to be custom so that they would last 10 years.
Yeah.
Because that's what they wanted. And that's why that's how they also justified that you're going to spend this. We're telling you right off the bat, we're not replacing this for 7 or 8 years. You're not going to see improvements.
But there'll be an OLED model in 2. So
now, yeah. So
with the same hardware outside of the screen.
It's just, and probably some bug fixes that the original should have had anyway. Or quality, because they're going to make quality improvements. They're going to find where things are weak.
Yeah, I mean, geez, like they tout that you can just put the screen on the desk and make it, all fun with the kickstand and stuff. But on the Switch 1, that was just an awful experience because the kickstand was terrible. So like now the kickstand's a lot better.
Yeah,
there are some stuff like that. And yeah, you mentioned the Joy-Cons being magnetic and whatnot. That's a lot.
I don't know
better
what
of a
that's
system,
going to be. I mean, it's probably
fine. But
what are they going to do? Like, do they still click into place at all? Because I do feel like
they have they have an ejector button that just pushes a piston out and forces the magnet off of it, so it's a lot easier to pull off. Otherwise, it's too hard to pull off. So
I think putting on the magnets is a good idea. Yeah. I do worry, though, that if you're a crazy gamer, you're going to get aggressive and it's going to pop them off.
Probably.
And what if you break both of them off?
And especially with
now
kids,
you've just dropped your $450 Switch 1.5 on the ground.
I watched a hands-on demo, and the connector where the Joy-Con touches the screen is like a connector that sticks out. And the guy was like touching it and stuff, and he's like, "Dude, kids are gonna break that off, like completely, and that ruins the entire system. You need a new system."
Yeah, I'm worried about that. And then the $80 for a game.
Yeah,
I understand things are gonna get more expensive. I don't think they're bringing $80 worth of value. All it is Nintendo IP, and they're gonna get it.
You can innovate a little bit in Mario Party and Mario Kart, but like there's not a lot.
It's the same freaking game that they're gonna now sell you for $80 instead of $60. Half the time the graphics aren't even that much better.
No, not at all.
And I think that's fine for Nintendo games. There's something about, like, I was big into World of Warcraft. The graphics in that game were never amazing.
It's not the point though. Yeah.
But the immersion, the game, the people, like there were so many other elements that you didn't care. Yeah. The game was just good to play. That is a lot of the Nintendo games, the nostalgia, the playability.
The community, that kind of thing.
You can look past it not having the best graphics, and I think that's fine. But this thing is priced like a modern gaming system without that modern performance. And then you're pricing the games as if you needed to redo anything. I don't see it. For me, the value's not there. That's disappointing to me. And it'll sell by the billions.
Yeah. I mean, it's 1.5 inch bigger screen. All right. So we've talked about games and stuff now. Let's hit some marketing stuff, though, about this. And I'm sorry to everybody, but we're going to talk about Roblox again. Roblox, man.
We talked about Walmart making their own world, right?
Walmart made a little Walmart world within Roblox. And Roblox is a game where you can make games in the game, too, weirdly.
Gameception. Yeah. Robloxception.
Yeah, you make little mini games and stuff. There's actually a huge one right now with young girls, which is the dress up something called Dress to Impress. And that's actually a massive one right now. And you go in and dress the character up or whatever, and then people vote on which one they think is best based on the prompt. What's the best Halloween, I don't know, Jason costume or something like that. I don't know. But the thing is, these are pay to win games, basically.
Something fashion.
Yeah, I don't know. They're basically pay to win games though, because people have to pay to get a better costume and that kind of thing. So you can use that kind of framework for any other sort of game that you can come up with. There's a lot of money going into this basically, and it's all kids, and who knows how much money they're spending without being allowed to spend on that.
All of their allowances
Yeah.
and money from grandma and grandpa.
Yeah. So the crazy part is, like you mentioned with Walmart, this game has ads in it.
What?
And Roblox just partnered with Google Ad Manager. So now people can utilize Google Ad Manager to push ads into Roblox. Wild. So it has become even easier to advertise to, I'm going to say children, but realistically, this is Gen Z.
There's some teenagers.
It's 13 to 28-year-olds.
I was going to say,
it's kind of wild.
Got some 20-year-olds in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's kid advertising, but realistically, it's a little bit more than that. But Gen Z is notoriously hard to market to. They're very experienced banner blinder, people basically. So they're going to ignore ads that look like
Got to be
ads.
subtle.
You got to be subtle is kind of the key here.
Your character's going to smoke Marlboros, right? Like, it's kind of one of those, it's just like weird random product placement. And you're like, subliminally, you're like,
oh, yeah.
I need a Lucky Strike.
Yeah.
Joe Cool was so awesome.
Joe Cool.
He worked on me. It's my brand.
Your camel now?
I'm like, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
If Joe Cool looked cool, literally in his name.
I can't believe that was a thing, man.
I can't believe they pretended like it wasn't to appeal to children.
Yeah. Wild. But, yeah. That was even after, that was the whole doctor craze of doctors saying you should smoke. Wow.
That was also a thing.
Yeah.
That smoking's good for you.
Yeah.
We lived in that world where Philip Morris company was telling people it was healthy to smoke.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got us way off track.
Where's Mickey Microplastic at? Ridiculous.
I don't poison you at all.
Or Joey Jewel. Man. So, yeah, anyways, the long and short of this is that it's going to be pretty nuts to be able to advertise to Gen Z, basically, through games now with Roblox and whatnot. So, and these are also like interactive ads too, so they're a lot more engaging. These can be like reward based, so you interact with the ad and you actually get stuff within the game.
That's smart.
Or they're immersive ads, which are, actually within the game itself. But during testing phases, these ads have achieved more than 80% completion rate, which pretty high. Really high. So if you're advertising and your market is Gen Z, I guess go into Roblox, man. Get into that. So pretty wild. YouTube's done an interesting thing as well. They are really hitting home with AI powered tools, and so is everybody. But they have
AI.
AI? What is that?
This AI?
Who is this Al? Weird. He's a weird guy. YouTube's releasing a suite of tools in their inspiration tab to help content creation accessibility. And that's long term to basically say they're putting AI tools into YouTube.
Okay.
But the sneaky behind of all this is that TikTok is dying or potentially dying. I have no idea.
We have no idea.
3 years. So, yeah.
Well, by the way, like we thought for sure, hey, Amazon made a really late bid, thought it was all going to happen. Then there was a group of private investors that were going to do it.
And then the Chinese,
China blocked it and said, no, you can't sell this part of the entity.
China investors were totally down for the whole thing.
They finally got everything on the...
But then tariffs happened, so...
And then tariffs, and so then government.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. Anyway.
So now there's another 75 days. 60-ish probably by the time you hear this.
Yeah. So...
58.
YouTube, though, the goal is YouTube's trying to get a bigger YouTube Shorts audience. So they're stealing from Reels and they're stealing from TikTok. That's basically the whole thing. Yeah. So they're offering a complimentary 3-month access to this Repurpose IO, which repurposes your TikTok and Instagram videos for YouTube Shorts, just like automatically. Again, AI.
Do they own this company or are they just partnering with this company?
I don't know.
Interesting.
Nothing mentioned there.
I've never heard of them in my life.
But it is a cool thing. I mean, it even removes TikTok watermarks. It's a big little thing, yeah. But the inspiration tab's actually kind of cool because it does like, hey, brainstorm based on my last videos, come up with more ideas. What are better hooks for these opening ones or that kind of thing. So this inspiration tab and this Repurpose IO are coming out for YouTube. And it is, again, just to promote Shorts, which Shorts has been growing, man, bigger and bigger. You got to get there if you're advertising, if you're marketing your company.
You might need them to place to relocate.
And YouTube Shorts. Yep.
Yep.
That's probably the next one to go to if you're not a fan of Meta, especially. Because it's really just, at this point, YouTube Shorts and Reels that are the biggest for safe areas. I mean, there's weirdly like LinkedIn Shorts and stuff now, but Yeah.
Is there really?
Well, it's LinkedIn videos, and people have been putting. Short
They
videos
do
on
their
it.
own shorts.
Yeah, so it's like not really a thing, but it is. It's fun right now.
I like LinkedIn right now. I don't know why.
You know,
I don't actually care, but I care.
Do you
Like,
think
it's
about
my- it's
LinkedIn when you think about Microsoft?
No.
Weirdly, they own that too.
Now, I'm not going to talk about Microsoft. I'm going to talk about the Googs real quick. Because
Oh,
I'm going to talk.
Googs.
So I want to wrap this up because I need us all to be depressed. That's my role. Your role is to get people excited about stuff coming on.
Cool.
I've already peed in your Cheerios about the Nintendo Switch and how I think it's a waste of money. You kind
Allegedly.
of handled Roblox on your own. I didn't need to help there.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about this YouTube thing, and TikTok dying is really what I decided to bring up. So why don't we talk about cybersecurity? I can continue my Debbie Downer. It's real interesting. If you are a Palo Alto firewall customer, keep an eye on firmware updates. Because there are some, we'll say like security research teams that are monitoring, and they're seeing an uptick in scans looking for GlobalProtect logins, which is like the login system for Palo Alto firewalls.
Like the web.
At one point, they saw 20,000 concurrent IP addresses scanning
Wow.
for available Palo Alto firewalls.
Yikes.
And so, interestingly enough, I think there's going to be a vulnerability. I think what we're seeing is they're doing reconnaissance.
To see what IPs to target and then exploit the vulnerability that they know about, potentially.
Yeah.
That's scary.
So
keep up with your firmware updates because you're being targeted.
and start monitoring things.
Yeah.
And before you go, oh, I block all the stuff from China and Australia. Actually, these IP addresses all originated from the US and Canada.
Really? Spooky. All right. That's a lot of scans.
A lot.
Yeah.
And it's been going on for about the past couple weeks, so we think they're gearing up for something.
All right.
And then finally, actually, I'm going to Debbie Undowner for a second and say, we talked a little bit about Gemini 2.5 Pro kind of in the beginning. What if I told you that Google, using their own threat intelligence and partnering with a company called Mandiant, which is a really big cybersecurity firm, and they're producing an LLM specifically usable for cybersecurity.
Huh. This is the first one I've heard of that.
And in fact, it's 78% more effective at discovering and reverse engineering and working with malware
Wow.
than other systems.
Other LLMs specifically?
Yeah,
Or-
yep.
Interesting.
So it sounds really cool, but it's basically, normally LLMs, you have your training period and it can be months. Well, this is actively training based on Mandiant and Google's threat intelligence real time,
Wow.
near real time. So it's constantly ingesting this data. So it's constantly seeing. So it's actually even able to look at vulnerabilities in systems. You could use it for pen testing, all kinds of really cool stuff.
Huh. That's a good use case. All right. I'm excited for that. I wonder if that'll be widely accepted or, yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Is that a paid for thing probably with Gemini?
I don't know. Well, so when I looked at it, it looks like it's really just limited partnerships. So
Yeah, freely available to select organizations, institutions, and professionals. Okay.
yeah, I think it's really, they're still trying to design and lay this out before it goes to the public.
First instance I've heard of this kind of thing, though. That's very fascinating. I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Me too. I think this is a great use for AI.
Yeah.
All right. I feel pretty good about everything there. So just a couple quick things. Hey, if you are a Lighthouse customer, even if you're not, check out the hub at hub.lighthouseSOL.com. You can view the podcast. You can view blog articles, all kinds of great resources, information there. You can, if you click on the podcast link, you can see all of the different things that we've got going on from the podcast perspective. You can see notes, believe it or not. We actually show you where we see these things on the internet. We're not making them up.
Well, my opinions are
My opinions, those are fact.
factual opinions.
Those are factual opinions. So you can check all of those out. Of course, if you missed 1, 2 podcasts, what's the deal here, man? What? Keep an eye. We're starting to get to play around a little bit more with YouTube. Right now, you can find the podcast up there on the YouTube's as well, which is fun and exciting, but hoping that later this year we're doing a little bit more. So find out that maybe soon. I don't know. It's
Could
some
be
of that's
listening to
me.
this in the past.
So, look,
man.
some of that's me. Some of it's lazy. You might be. You know what? That's right.
You might be
If this
there
is
right
3
now.
months in the future, and you're listening to this,
You're gonna be like, "Well, this Switch 2's great."
and they dropped the price,
Yeah, and the OLED model was first.
what are tariffs?
Yeah, yeah.
Have a great week. Be safe. We'll catch you on the next episode of Lighthouse IT Solutions Podcast.